Currently, about half of the Valorant's player base that are playing ranked is in like gold or below. And there seems to be a lot of discussion about how a lot of these players just feel stuck. They feel like they're being dragged down by smurfs or teammates that don't know what to do. And they're so-called stuck in this ELO-HELL. I can understand that feels frustrating. So that's why today's video is all about just that. What to focus on when you're ranking up from a lower rank such as bronze or silver. I recently started playing competitive Valorant myself, and I got out of silver very quickly, and I'm now kind of just gliding through gold as well. But I come from 6,000 hours in Counter-Strike, so I've already done this once before, and I'm kind of just doing it again, but for a different game. So let's start with tip number 1. This one is probably the most important of all 5 that I'll bring up today, and it's to warm up before you start playing for the day. Just by hopping into the practice tool and shooting some bots and play a deathmatch or 2 before you start your games will drastically improve your confidence and your aim in the rest of the games for that day. It doesn't need to be for a long time. 5 to 10 minutes can be enough depending on how much of an effect you want from it and depending on how long you plan on playing. But just by going through that routine every day, you will both get better games in the moment, but also improve your aim throughout the upcoming weeks, so that you will, when you'll hit gold, you will actually have a better aim to carry yourself in gold, and when you hit plat, you will carry yourself in plat. And starting to apply good warm-ups and practices is something that's great to do already, even if you're in iron, silver, platinum. It's always good to keep doing this because it's something that you will want to do even when you reach immortal or radiant, because it's something that you will never stay away from. I've covered both warm-ups and practices more in-depth on the channel, so if you want more info regarding the topic, go check that video out. While we here hop over to tip number 2, which will be all about me, myself, and I. Or I guess you, yourself, and you. Now, as I have both climbed through the silver and the gold ranks recently, coming from a long history of Counter-Strike, I noticed myself that the more I focused on my own gameplay and myself, the more I won. When I started to get frustrated about my teammates not listening or not cooperating, I just pulled myself down with them. So this second tip will be all about how you should focus on yourself, focus on what you can do to improve your game, and just cooperate with your team when you find the chance. Now, don't get me wrong here. Teamwork does make the dream work. But that's only when your team is actually willing to cooperate and knows what they're doing, which is such a hit or miss in these lower ranks. You might end up with 4 people that's muting everyone and that doesn't know how to trade frag or where to smoke, which is when you have to focus on yourself and pull this chaotic game to the victory yourself. And this brings us quickly into tip number 3, which is all about your own mentality towards the game. It's probably one of the biggest flaws I see in the earlier ranks of the game. It's when you have someone that thinks that they are so good at the game, but the game is just pulling them back at all times. It's smurfs, it's cheaters, it's stupid teammates, you're always top fragging, but you just get dragged down. That type of mentality will do you no good. It'll only tilt you more, make you play worse, cause you to flame your teammates, make them insecure, which causes them to miss more shots, make worse decisions, and in the end of this spiral, you are the reason for your own poor teammates. As you can hear, keeping that mentality stable is such a core concept of trying to rank up. Not only will it keep your own tilt away, making you perform better, but it'll create a nicer environment for your teammates to play in, which will result in better teammates as well. This is something that is yet again great to take good control of already here in silver, bronze, gold, because it's something you will see alongside all the ranks, even in the pro scene. Astralis, one of the, if not the best Counter-Strike team of all time, were stuck in semi-finals for such a long time, until they hired a psychologist to help them improve. An esports, or at least sports psychologist, that helped them with their mentality and pushed them through the semi-final into the final, where they, after that, became the most dominant Counter-Strike team ever. Now, there are a few different ways you can keep your mentality in check. Like a very classic is to take a break when you're frustrated, go for a walk, grab a drink, or focus on your own gameplay, as I mentioned earlier in tip 2, as much as possible. Because if you're not focusing on the mistakes of your teammates, those will not frustrate you in the same way. Instead, try to really dive deep into self-improvement, making you the better player, and through that, seeing more consistent improvements, which will then convert into more wins, which will transform your silver icon into a diamond one. Now, these last 2 tips here were a little bit more personal and out of the game focused tips for you to focus on. So let's hop into a little bit more game specific tips before we end today's video. Now, another big issue I saw in these lower ranks was people not really understanding their champions. And I don't think this is like a stupidity issue. I think it's just too high ambition and people trying to fill any role that will ever be needed, which you can do when you're up in Immortal or Radiant, because you have such a high understanding of the game. But in these lower ranks, when you're still learning, I really recommend picking a few champions, playing them, and getting good at them. Personally, I usually leaned a little bit further towards the duelist side in the beginning, as I had such a huge amount of hours from Counter-Strike. My aim was my biggest tool to use. So you usually saw me on Phoenix or Reyna. But I still played Brimstone and occasional Sova or Cypher that helps a lot with vision and map awareness, or the smokes. And by doing this, I gained a decently big confidence on these champions, which made me be able to climb the ranks rather quickly, and then slowly pick up another champion and then another, and adding them to my pool of champions I play. And remember, there is never a need to know how to play every single champion of the game, as long as you have enough understanding so you know how to face them. Now, on these champions you pick, I really recommend diving deep. Learn lineups or setups for your abilities, learn when to use your abilities, how to use it as perfect as possible, when the best chances of winning a round because of your ulti would be, and for example, how to buy on the pistol rounds for all individual champions you decide to play. That can be such a core concept, as the pistol round is so important. Now, once you got a good grip on the champions you play and what their utility really does, you can start to understand which rounds you might want to be able to skip one ability or something like that just to get the Vandal instead. And this concept brings us perfectly into tip number 5, which is all about the game's economy itself. Knowing when to buy or when to save, or how much you can buy on a save, is basically common knowledge in the slightly higher ranks of Valorant. But it's a mistake I see very often in the slightly lower ranks. This surprises me every time, because anyone who tries to rank up and tries to improve their game should really take 10 to 15 minutes watching a video on how to buy. That's all it takes. If you need some reminders of the video, just write down some notes and have them close by when you play so that you can just quickly look. But the core concept is so simple. If your team can buy 4 to 5 Vandals and heavy shields and some utility, you buy. If you don't, you eco. And then, on those ecos, you buy what you can while still being able to buy heavy shields and Vandal for the next round. That is the basic concept of the economy. If you need more information, I've actually covered that in depth in another video as well, so you can go check that out. But otherwise, just having that little concept will be enough in silver to gold rank. So, those were my top 5 tips on helping you guys rank out of silver, or bronze, or iron, or maybe even gold. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope that you feel like you can start using these directly and that you really learned something new from them. And if you did, feel free to hop down into the comments and let me know which tip helped you the most. Now, before I let you guys go out there to try to win some games, did you realize that all of these have something in common? The one thing that all of these 5 tips are connected to is you. You are the person that will have to decide to really improve. You are the person that can control if you rank up. And you are the person who is in control of your own mentality. So go out there, set your mind to it, and get out of silver.